Welcome back to the Midnight Movie, guys. We are going to continue on with our retrospective reviews, discussions of the works of John Carpenter. And as of this recording, it is October 1st, 2025. So we are officially in spooky season. Although, if you're hardcore like me and a lot of others, that spooky season started back in September. But nonetheless, I think we're probably just going to be doing a lot, and we do a lot of horror on this channel anyway, so we're just going to keep on with it. I was worried about doing so much John Carpenter stuff, but the truth is, I mean, he's one of the masters of the macabre, so dovetails beautifully into Halloween season. And yeah, so last episode we went over the incredible masterpiece that is John Carpenter's The Thing. I discussed a bit how this film that we now regard as a masterpiece that so many people love, that is so flawless, so beautifully executed on every level, was a box office flop, which again seems insane because it's so beloved now. It's such a great benchmark, a piece not just of cinema but of its genre, and again all the way around. Well, believe it or not, today's Midnight Movie, which is Christine from 1983, John Carpenter's Christine, which was adapted from another legend's work, Stephen King's novel Christine, was, believe it or not, kind of a step down for Carpenter. And any of you that have seen this movie know how incredibly this is another flawless execution by Carpenter. But this was kind of just, as Carpenter has said in a lot of his interviews, just a job. This was not a personal project or a passion project for him at all, which, again, if you've seen this movie, is mind-numbingly, it's hard to believe because it's so well done. It's so beautifully done. This movie, for those of you that don't know, is about a possessed car, a 1958 Plymouth Fury that came off the assembly line in Detroit, Bad to the Bone, which is one of the songs on the soundtrack and in the film, which fits perfectly. So much of this movie, this script, this concept, it's, again, hard to believe that it was not tailor-made for Carpenter. Because Carpenter himself, we all know, is a musician in his own right. He studied music as a kid. He had, or has, might still have his own, had a rock band called the Coupe de Bills. So he is very much birthed in that 50s, 60s rock and roll culture. So in doing this movie, which is set in 1978, though it did come out in 83, it really it dovetails perfectly in the music that Carpenter grew up with, that he played. Again, he had his own rock band, which, again, could he be more of a badass, And so it fits in with this movie about a possessed car. And essentially the premise is you have this character named Arnie, played by Keith Gordon, played beautifully by Keith Gordon, who's kind of a nerd. He's kind of a dork. He, is unsophisticated. He's kind of clumsy, wears glasses. He's, the quintessential nerd in high school. And he's got one close friend, played by John Stockwell, who is kind of the pretty boy, jock football player, who's nice to him. But unfortunately, Arnie, he gets picked on in high school. He doesn't really get any attention from girls in high school. He really is kind of this lovable loser until he comes upon this old, beat-up 1958 Plymouth Fury that he ends up buying from this old cadre old man for like $300 or something. Despite the fact that the old man tells him that old Christine, which is the name of the car, has a weird past, he's like, you know what? Nope. I'm gonna buy this car anyway. I'm gonna fix her up. She's gonna be beautiful. And immediately upon this latest viewing of Christine, it immediately made me think about how, one, a guy's relationship to his car, the American love affair with the hot rod or the automobile, it's all baked into this film. But there's a layer that I didn't see literally until this latest viewing about how much of kind of an incel Arnie is before getting Christine, or actually while he is fixing her up and while he has her. This movie, it's early incel cinema. and I don't mean that by movies for incels, but a film like this and Taxi Driver, sort of the disturbed, seemingly or perceived powerless young man who doesn't really connect with people, doesn't have a lot of friends, doesn't have any romantic relationships, doesn't see eye to eye with his parents if he's talking to his parents. It's all right in there. It's not super explicit. Some of it is veiled as, the car's influence on him. But we get to see this really interesting, effective transformation of young Artie from this loser, this dork, this geek, to this kind of villain, this badass, and villain uh, in the best terminology, but also in the worst. He gets this car, and the car's spirit sort of empowers him to be this self-possessed, I don't give a damn, I do what I want, I'll do my own thing, screw the world attitude, and it really works. Keith Gordon is not the tallest guy, and you can kind of see it in this film, but I feel like the fact that they cast a not as tall actor, it makes it more effective. And Gordon's performance, I think, is even more, it's more believable because you have a guy who, he's not one of the tall jocks, he's kind of like the shorter guy, and then boom, he comes into this sort of self-possession in addition to maybe a demonic possession or influence at least, and he really transforms. It's a really great performance by Keith Gordon. As he's going through this, he does catch the eye of Alexandra Paul, who plays the character of Lee. Alexandra Paul, though some of you might remember, she had an acting career in the 80s and 90s. She was in a massively popular TV show called Baywatch in the 90s, depending on how old you are. I actually had an opportunity. I was in a movie with her. We didn't have any scenes together, but she was really cool. Really, really nice lady. The movie was... first movie was Say Yes, and then the sequel was Baby Steps. That was the one I was in with her. Really fun, original, independent film was made by a friend of mine. So anyways, Lee, she starts going out with Arnie, and we see as she's going out with him, we sort of see this change in Arnie. We also see how much Christine is, while Arnie is as possessive of Christine, and he polishes her, he keeps her clean, he keeps her cherried out. Christine is just as possessive of Arnie, and Christine has just as much of a personality, a spirit of her own. And again, the beauty of this film is in its execution, which, of course, every film should be. But how Carpenter takes this beautiful classic car and really turns it into a monster is so impressive because it's, again, all practical special effects. So, again, I think there were maybe one or two people that worked with Carpenter on The Thing, which was the film he did just before this, came over and worked with him on Christine. And, without spoiling too much, this car literally transforms. It is able to heal itself. It has that sort of ghastly, ghostly monster sort of spirit, and it holds grudges, man. Woo. And again, this movie only has about like 74% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think is way too low. I think this film is up there with one of Carpenter's, with his best, with The Thing, Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China, Halloween. It's of that caliber. He really nails ghost stories. But like The Fog, Christine, for some reason, doesn't get as much shine or as much love as it should, which is too bad because it is perfect. There isn't a flaw in this movie. If I were to nitpick, the fact that it came out in 83 but is set in 78, I'm not sure why that is, except for the fact that Christine is a 58 Fury. Maybe they wanted that sense of nostalgia. Okay, it's 20 years later. But I think there's maybe one or two vehicles in the movie that clearly are past 78. Again, you really have to be looking for it. I've seen this movie like 6 times, so you start to notice things. But again, overall, flawless film. Perfect horror film, perfect ghost story, really original in how he was able to take this classic car, which if you've never seen Christine, you don't, understand the sort of cult classic status of this movie, and you just saw a 58 Plymouth Fury, you would not think twice about it. And yet, Carpenter and company are able to make this thing seem so real and so monstrous. He's able to give it such personality, which, again, I don't know how you do that. I mean, obviously, he had some incredible stunt coordinators, stunt drivers, incredible effects team on this, but you can have all of those things if you don't capture it right, if you don't shoot this right. The cinematographer, I think his name is Donald Morgan, was fantastic too. There's some incredible nighttime shots of Christine, of the car. Did I say? Yeah, Donald M. Morgan, cinematographer. We get this beautiful lens flare when Christine's headlights come on. It's again very subtle. There's not a lot of blood in this movie. It's akin to Halloween in that way. Again, Halloween has no blood in it as far as I can remember. Maybe there's a little bit more blood than Halloween. But it's just, again, it's pure Carpenter. It's atmosphere. It's mood. On top of that, layer in Carpenter and Alan, is it Alan Howarth or Alan Howarth, who was one of his longtime collaborators. I believe they started to work together in Halloween 2, and they just lay in this incredible synth score, which of course Carpenter is known for, and it just makes it that much more spooky, that much more interesting, that much more scary. There are legit jump scares in this movie that I managed to forget about from the last time I watched it. So again, it's an incredibly effective movie, beautifully shot, written, cast, directed. It's an incredibly well done genre piece in terms of just being a horror film. It's an exemplary ghost story. There's minor differences from the novel to the movie. I don't really think it hurts it at all. Again, Stephen King, incredible, prolific writer, almost always with his stuff. It's always the novel's better. But this is, again, just a job for our man John Carpenter. Knocks it out of the park. And this is probably one of, I think, the coolest Stephen King adaptations that I've ever seen. You've got The Shining, you've got Christine, there are others, The Mist. But yeah, it's again, spooky season. You want something original, different, fun. Again, a film that does not come up on a lot of, best of, or you've got to see, Carpenter, people know about him and he's got those hits. He in so many ways made so much foundational film, so much foundational horror or sci-fi. And don't sleep on Christine, man. Don't sleep on her. She's bad to the bone. She's beautiful. This film is just, again, perfectly executed. You have a few, in terms of the cast, in addition to Keith Gordon's performance, Alexandra Paul's performance, John Stockwell is sort of like the pretty boy jock friend, completely believable. You also have two heavy hitters in the supporting cast. You have Robert Prosky as the guy who owns the garage where Arnie fixes up Christine and where he stores Christine, and he just plays this just incredibly sleazy, nasty, sort of old codger of a guy to a T. Robert Prosky was one of just the great film character actors, and he's fun to watch in this. He's the head gangster in another great film, one of my favorites of all time, Michael Mann's Thief from 1981, which I don't think we've reviewed yet. I will review one day. But that movie, as a Chicagoan, is near and dear to my heart. But Robert Prosky's in that too. You'll find Robert Prosky across so many films in the 70s and 80s. I don't know if he passed away in the 90s or whatnot, but the guy could do anything, and he just nails it. And then the other guy is Harry Dean Stanton, who I believe the first film Carpenter was worked with Harry Dean Stanton was Escape from New York in '81. So again, as we mentioned in previous videos on Carpenter's films, Carpenter is really good about having a great experience with solid actors who do their job and then pulling them forward into future projects. And while he doesn't recycle a lot of his regular players, Carpenter doesn't, into Christine, He does take, Harry Dean Stanton into it. Other than that, it's pretty much a completely fresh, uh, non-Carpenter cast. But again, knocks it out of the park. But so even the supporting roles in this movie are really memorable with Robert Prosky, Harry Dean Stanton, everyone in the main cast, Keith Gordon, Alexander Paul, Dean Stockwell, John Stockwell. Uh, Again, just completely believable. Even though it was 82, 83 when this movie came out, it's so interesting how sort of the same universals of the high school experience, for better or for worse, kind of hold on. I don't know what that says for us as human beings, but it's very easy to plug into this movie. It is just a beautiful, fun, atmospheric night at the movies, and another reason why, I'm taking this time to go through all of Carpenter's films is because I feel like in some way we've kind of forgotten that movies should be fun. It's so important these days that everything have a message, and there's nothing wrong with message movies. There's nothing wrong with really sort of dialing in some substance into a film. But I feel like sometimes we are being a little too serious and a little too self-important, and I do think that can hurt film. It can hurt any art form. And with Carpenter, he doesn't have necessarily a grand message. Maybe They Live from 1988, which we'll also cover. But if you just want to have a fun night at the movies, you want a fun, spooky, scary, atmospheric, popcorn munching, night on the couch with your beloved, your dog, whomever, Christine from 1983. I feel like I should screen this for my movie nights with my friends because it's just so well freaking done. Every time I watch this movie, I notice something else. How flawless. Again, the car transformations, how he builds this personality into Christine. How do you do that? Well, he did it. And it's so much fun. But yeah, guys, I might be breaking up in future videos, maybe some more recent films that I've watched that I kind of want to talk about, and I've sort of locked myself into these John Carpenter reviews. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe we'll just keep plowing ahead. It is Halloween season as of this recording, October 1st. We're in it, so maybe we'll do one a day. I don't know, but there's stuff that I've watched, like The Substance, that really pretty impressive. But we'll see. I'm having a lot of fun with the John Carpenter stuff. If you guys have suggestions, what do you guys think of Christine? I think it's probably one of his more slept-on films next to The Fog, and it's too bad because it's flawless filmmaking. These movies should be taught in school. They're so perfect. But you let me know what you think in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.